this one will be a doozy. Hello, all of my fabulous, beautiful people. How are you all doing today? I hope that you are all doing very, very well. So today, I am going to be doing a get ready with me, which is why I look like crap right now. And I'm going to be doing a story time. I'm sure you saw the title, so we know what it's about. And I'm doing the get ready with me so that I can tell the story and like concentrate on doing something else so that I don't get too triggered, let's be honest. That's why. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. No need for a long intro. So, I am going to be telling you all the story of my abusive relationship. It's been long coming. I figured might as well do this in a get ready with me video. I'm going to make it as short as I can, but here we go. So, I met my ex-boyfriend via mutual friends. My ex from high school, one of his friends actually ended up moving next door to me when I got my first apartment. Now, I had just turned 19, literally the June before I got my first apartment, that September. So it's September 2005. I just get my very first apartment. I had gone to college for a year. I was doing child and youth care worker. My mental health was failing me. And I was obviously like struggling. Most of us that have severe mental health issues, for those that don't know, I do have CPTSD and I had it before all of this due to childhood stuff. So lovely, right? I obviously was having the most symptoms as I was turning like 18, 19. Most of us that grow up with mental health issues, it really hits us, you know, in early adulthood. So obviously that's what's happening to me at this time. I did child and youth care worker, but I obviously was not in the right place of mind to go off and become a counselor because I hadn't done as much work on myself yet. Although I had been going to counseling since the age of 9, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I had no diagnosis, nothing like this, so it wasn't like I was getting real help. You get what I'm saying? I'm in my very first apartment, and I'm at the store, and all of a sudden I run into one of my ex's friends, and he ends up living right next door to me. My ex was his best friend. So he was always there hanging out. I was always there hanging out. We ended up hanging out together. He ended up moving, and so my ex, which obviously is not my ex yet, we haven't started dating yet, made contact with me and was all like, hey, if you want to hang out, just, you know, let me know. Well, I was working at the time. I had a full-time job, and I was working a lot, like Monday to Friday working, and all of a sudden, he started to show up, like, at my work and stuff, and offered me, like, rides home, and, because he drove, I didn't drive, and so, you know, I'm thinking, all right, I'll just take the rides home, not really that big of a deal. That was the first red flag that I fucking ignored, by the way. Stalking behavior, stay clear of it. So, after he did this for, a few weeks, he started to ask if, you know, I wanted to hang out with him when he was like dropping me off and stuff. And, you know, I'm like, okay, sure, we'll hang out. Well, then he started to bring me to like his friends' houses when we were hanging out. Like he'd be like, hey, I just gotta go run and see my friend. Okay, whatever, we'll go. So I'd go with him. But as I'm like there, a lot of them are asking if we're dating. And at this time, we were just friends. So it was a little bit strange to me because I'm like, no, like, we don't really have anything going on. What do you mean? But at the time, I didn't really think much of it. Again, another red flag that I probably shouldn't have ignored. So what happened was he finally kind of asks me out. I actually said no the first couple times he asked me out. Because I wasn't really looking for a relationship, you know, like I had a high school sweetheart, we had been broken up for a while, I dated a couple guys, I just wasn't really looking for anything at the time. So I had said no. Well, eventually, he finally convinces me to go out with him. So, you know, we go out. We didn't really do much. I don't remember us going on like a real like date where he like took me out or anything. My husband took me out. We'll get into that story one day. Or anything like that, but I do remember us like hanging out, grabbing food, hanging out at my place, yada yada. So, you know, whatever. It was a date. So we finally kind of start dating. And at this point, I'm like, okay, whatever. You could introduce me to your friends now as your girlfriend or whatnot. So that went on for 6 months. And of course, during this 6 months, he's being great to me. You know, I don't really have any complaints. But then he starts to introduce me to his family. And that was a little bit strange, I'll be honest. His family just didn't seem to like him or me. I don't know. It was weird. So I just, oh Lord, what am I doing to my face right now? I just like kind of ignored his family. I was like, whatever. Maybe they just don't get along the greatest, whatever. And we're dating for about 6 months. And at this time, I actually had to move apartments. So I had been living at my place for a little while, and it's getting to the point where I want to move. I want to leave. So we've been seeing each other for just under 6 months at this point. I've been at my apartment for about a year. So this is like the next year, the next September, I decide that I want to move. So my dad and I start looking for apartments together. My dad's like, I'll help you find a place. My parents have always been really supportive in that way. So I was like, okay, cool, Dad. Thanks. Let's go. And my dad worked in the same city I was living at the time, which was Kingston, Ontario. So, you know, he would like come on his work lunch and take me. We would go apartment searching. Perfect, right? Then my ex kind of like tells me, well, let's move in together. Now, I thought it was really early, just really super early to move in, right? 6 months. Wait till I tell you about me and my husband, though. You'll laugh. So at this time, I'm like, it's a little early, but okay. Now, he was living with his grandparents, and they really wanted him out of the house. I was 19 when we started dating, but he was 4 years older than me. So he was like 23. So, you know, they're like, get out of my house. Go live on your own. He had never had his own like place before, so I think they were kind of just, I almost poked myself in the eye. I think they were kind of just getting sick of him like sponging off of them. So they kind of pushed us to move in together, I think, because they were like, get him out of our house, please. Eventually, you know, I told my dad, hey, I think me and my boyfriend are going to move in together. My dad's not too keen on the idea because, of course, really soon, but he's like, whatever, if you guys find a place, cool. So he found us this little basement apartment underneath this old lady who seemed really sweet at the time, and we move in together there. Within a few weeks of us moving in together, him and I got into a huge argument in which he put me through the wall. So we got into an argument. I packed up my stuff. I went to go leave the house. I was like, I'm leaving. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. He had started to get really combative with me just over like everyday things. Everything was a fight. Like to even do dishes or something was a huge fight, big blow up. And I was just, I had enough. I'm trying to get help for my mental health. At this time, I was actually doing an outpatient treatment program. They thought I had borderline personality disorder. So I'm over here like trying to get myself together, and then he's starting to flip out about everything all the time. And I'm just like, nah, this isn't going to work. So I went to go leave. He grabbed me, swung me around, and literally put me through the wall. So there's like this huge hole in our wall. That night, he had friends over to play poker. So we have like a whole bunch of people in our house. They're obviously looking at this thing on the wall like, what happened here? He's telling them that we got into a fight. They're like half joking, like, oh, what, did someone go through the wall? He's like, yeah, she did. So it was a little awkward. I don't think anyone really knew what to say that was around us. But things like this just kept happening, where we would get into an argument and he would raise his voice. He would slam me into the wall. He would never hit me, though. He didn't hit me at this point. So our relationship became really tumultuous. I can't say that word. It was turmoil. It was awful. Our relationship became fighting all the time, constantly. Eventually, we actually got kicked out of that place, probably because the lady upstairs just didn't want to deal with our fighting all the time. Let's be honest. We get kicked out of that place, and his grandparents, who he was living with, before we moved in together, he grew up with his grandparents instead of his parents. They actually decide to buy us a house that we are going to rent to own. We lived there for a few years. We had friends that came and lived with us that paid rent. During the time that we lived there, we had friends come and go because, again, of our fighting. They just thought we were really messed up. He would call me names in front of people, try to degrade me in front of people. If I was talking, he would tell me to shut up in front of them. It was just a very toxic environment. And at this point now, we're starting to do oxys all the time. I had been prescribed them by my doctor as a teenager. And my script had run out, but I obviously found how to get them out on the street. So we were buying them illegally out on the street, right? And we were doing them a lot. Probably was not helping with our arguing. Let's be real. We're arguing all the time. We're having people move in with us, then they want to move out a few months later because of all the bickering. People are actually saying to him, like, you treat your girl like crap. You should be lucky to be with someone. I'm doing everything. I'm working. I went back to college full-time, working part-time. I'm cleaning the house pretty much by myself. I'm making all our meals. Like, we used to have friends come over and be like, do you do anything, sir? So, all that's going on. Now, after I graduated college, and I graduated like top of my class, I got an award. This is when I did my social service worker. It was a 2-year college program. And I graduated top of my class. So I was very, very proud. This guy shows up late for my graduation, looking like crap. I gave him money to get a haircut. He couldn't even get his haircut before he showed up. I was so angry because he was late, not ready. And that just went to show me like how much he really cared about me. Because I was like, I'm graduating college and I gave you money for a haircut and like got you a real nice outfit. And you couldn't even do this and show up on time to celebrate me graduating college. What kind of boyfriend are you? You know, at this point, we had been together for about 5 years. So I'm thinking of leaving. And I think he knew that because he started to get into fights with me all the time. Now you're done college, you're probably just going to leave, blah, 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 blah. This is when he gets our first dog, Mina, a beagle. I think he got her to keep me around because he knew that I was planning on leaving. And unfortunately, it worked. So we have Mina. I've graduated college and I'm thinking life is about to get really great for me. I mean, I've been buying this house, been paying rent on it every single month, been giving him the money to go take it to his grandparents. Everything's good. I'm thinking I just graduated college, you know, now I'm going to start my career. Everything in my life should be going well. Then I get an eviction notice. Why am I getting evicted from his grandparents' house? What the hell? Come to find out, this idiot was stealing our rent money and pocketing it instead of giving it to his grandparents. We owed them 2 years of rent at $1,200 a month. I didn't have anything extra, but he had an extra $1,200 in his pocket every single month, and it wasn't like we were getting any extra food or anything, okay? I was living off of like Mr. Noodles when I was going to school and working. It just wasn't a fun time. So I'm over here, I'm pissed. We got evicted from our house. This is when we end up homeless. Now, his grandparents called my parents to be all like, you owe us money. And my parents were like, no, because I also called my parents and explained the situation. And I was like, we're not paying this because I've paid rent. He stole it. He pocketed it. It's his grandparents. They can work this out. I'm pissed. My parents got mad at me. So my parents are now also mad at me because they're like, how did this happen? What the hell? You know what I mean? Rightfully so. Like, get it together, Beth. Come on. Now my parents are mad at me. So me and him end up homeless in motels for a whole year. We're moving from motel to motel to motel to motel. All right? Because we had a dog. During this time, he gets another beagle dog. We get Molly. I'm pissed, by the way, because I'm like, we're homeless. We're living in a motel. We have to find a place to live with this dog. Now you bring another dog into here. Like, what are we doing? So I'm pissed. Finally, I find us a place. We find a place. We move in. This is when things started to get extremely abusive. I found out that he was actually still using. At this time, now, we have been on methadone for several months. The summer that we were homeless was the summer we went on methadone. He told me that he had started using intravenously. I hadn't. So it was time for him to get sober. He would not go on it without me. I personally think I probably could have just quit doing them and I would have been fine. He could not go a day without, even like a few hours without, or he would be flipping out and we would be fighting. He'd be screaming and yelling, smashing things. So we came to the decision that, okay, fine, we'll go on methadone. We'll quit this together. Find a place together. Now we're on methadone for a few months, you know. But he's still flipping out all the time. We were going to our appointments together, and I kind of got smart because the one day he made us almost late for our appointment. We actually missed getting our drink down at the clinic. We had to get it transferred to a new clinic. It was a headache, and I was so mad because I had called him like 3 hours before and was like, hey, let's go. And he was like, yeah, I'll be there. And then 3 hours later, he shows up, and then we're late. Just no responsibility with this person. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start going by myself to these appointments. We had signed a form so that they could tell me about his case and like tell him about all my stuff. I don't know why. I just remember going to the doctor's office one day and them being all like, yeah, like sign this form so we can talk to you guys together. I think it was because we were having our appointments together, so they had to have it signed. Well, the doctor ended up telling me on one of our visits that he was coming up positive on all of his drug tests, but it wasn't for opiates. It was for methamphetamine. Now, I had tried that like before him and I got together a couple times. Did not really like it. Not a fan. So I'm getting really pissed off because now he's using that. And I'm getting carries. I'm sober. I'm coming up with the clean pee test. I'm taking it seriously. He's not taking it seriously. And we're supposed to be doing this together. Sure. I start going to the appointments by myself. I start concentrating on myself. And I start volunteering. I started to volunteer at one of the places that helps people get jobs after they get out of jail. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm doing that. I'm doing well. He's not doing so well. He's still flipping out. All of a sudden, guess what we get at our new place? An eviction notice. Oh yeah. I had arranged for the rent to go into the account of our landlords automatically, but it didn't go into the account automatically until about 1 a.m. So what he would do is he would take the bank card, run down to the bank machine at midnight, pull out the money before it would do the transfer. And he was still robbing me of our rent money. After we had been homeless for a year, lost the house that we had been buying for almost 3 years, and then finally got a place. I didn't know what else to do. Tried to fight the eviction with the landlord tribunal, but they were like, listen, you owe a few months rent. Either pay it all now or you're getting kicked out. Once again, he thought my parents were going to save us. I'm not going to my parents and asking for money for that. I don't care how rich they are. No. This is a mistake that we should have had handled and that never should have happened. So no bailout for us as far as I'm concerned. We got a deal. We ended up finding one more place together. At this point, he's doing drugs all the friggin' time. I've had it. Now he's going in and out of jail. He's robbing stores, getting caught. The police are coming, knocking down my door. This is why I hate when police show up, because in the past I've had some bad experiences with them literally like beating me up to get into my house to look for him. This is all going on. He's going in and out of jail. And to tell you the truth, I'm loving when he's in jail. Finally, I get some peace. He'll go to jail for a month. I'm able to like hang out with my dogs, do my volunteer work, get my drink and I only had to go like once or twice a week at that. I think I had to go twice a week. I was like one carry away from having the whole week at that point, I believe, when I moved. Yeah, I was. So I'm loving when he's gone. And that was kind of like my wake up call where I was like, okay, like you obviously have to get out of this relationship, because when he's not around, you love your life. And when he's around, you absolutely hate everything and everything sucks. And he just ruins everything for you and is bringing you down. Like, you have college. Why are you hanging out with this bum girl? Come on. You know, I start to want to leave. Well, he gets out of jail. And the first thing he does this time when he gets out of jail is goes and gets drugs. I come home and he has drugs on my table and he's like yelling at me to do them. He used to get drugs and then scream at me to do them even if I didn't like want to and I wasn't feeling it. He would still get mad, and he was starting to do this with meth, and I was like putting it on the floor. He was leaving me a line of meth in the kitchen. He'd do his, leave our little kitchen and go sit on the couch, which was kind of like around a wall. I'd go in the kitchen, I'd put my sleeve over like my hand, throw it on the floor, make some sniffing noises, you know, and then come out of the kitchen and go sit down. So I wasn't doing the drugs. This is how I was able to keep my carries. I'm getting piss tested every week. I'm not doing them, but he obviously is. And he's getting mad at me if I'm like, I don't want any. So I've had it at this point. Okay. I'm just done. He had also started to get abusive with our dogs. He was always kind of mean to Mina. He used to throw her in her cage when he was training her and like beat the cage. And I used to kind of like have to jump in and be like, don't do that. That's cruel, yada, yada. Now he was actually starting to like kick the dogs and stuff. So this had been going on for like a couple of weeks where he was starting to get real violent with the dogs. And I've had enough. Goes to jail. In there for a month. Life is amazing. He gets out. I don't even know he's out. I'm out of the house doing my thing. I come home to him home. Lines out on my kitchen counter. And him just like getting mad at me, telling me like, hey, we're gonna get high, you know, like, and I just got out of jail, fun party time, da da da. I lost it. I was like, no, take that crap. Get out of my house. I've had enough. At this point, we have been together for almost 7 years. We lived at our last place for almost a year when we got kicked out. And we had been living at this place for like several months at this point. He was going in and out of jail. We got into such a big fight that day. I was actually fixing up my makeup. I wanted to go out again. I had just gone to the store and whatnot that morning, and I had to go out to get my drink that afternoon. So I'm in the mirror doing my makeup, you know, like fixing up my makeup to go out again. And all of a sudden, I see him running up from behind me. And I don't know why my dumb ass turned around, but I turned around just in time for him to haul off and punch me square in the head. I have a scar from it still. When my husband and I met, I still had the big split on my head. He split open my head. Blood just starts gushing down my face. So now I've had it. I'm done. I get on the phone to a bunch of our friends. Our buddy that is our mutual friend who had lived next door to me when we met up again ends up being the one that comes and picks me up to bring me to go get my drink. And then he's like, you can come back to my place and relax for a little bit and we'll figure out what to do. He ends up calling him, yelling at him, when you're done banging my girlfriend, come drop her back off at home, yada, yada, you know, just being a jerk. So I tell my buddy, I'm like, listen, I don't want to bring you into our drama because that's not fair to you. And that's the last thing you need is to have like some fight between you and him over this. He gave me some weed. I was like, give me some pot. I'm going to tell him that I came to you for that. I'm going to go back. Okay. I'll be safe. And then me and my family and some of my friends will figure out what to do. And that's what we did. Dropped me off. I stayed away from my ex, all right? Like, at this point, we were kind of living separate lives anyway. Like I said, he's going in and out of jail, still using. I'm like volunteering. I'm doing outpatient treatment programs. I am fucking doing my methadone like I should be. It was like, we were in two completely different worlds anyway. So it wasn't that hard for me to go back for a couple weeks and like ignore him and try to stay away from him. During that time, my parents and I actually made contact again because I told them what happened with one of my close friends from high school. We all got together at my parents' house, had lunch together, and we planned for me to go to Interval House. Interval House ended up being full for several days. So what we did is we arranged for them to call my friend, let her know when they had an opening so that they weren't calling my phone. I had just gotten a phone not that long before that was my own, and he used to try to always like check on my phone and see who was calling, you know, spy and whatnot. No trust. It was better that they call my friend. So a couple weeks later, my friend calls me and says, okay, Interval House has an opening for you. So I was actually on my way to go get my drink at that time when she made the phone call. So I was like, perfect. Tell them I'll be right there. The clinic was actually almost right across the street from Interval House, so it was perfect for me. I was like, awesome. I'll be there as soon as I'm done at my clinic and we'll work it all out. So I went. I sat down with the police officers and the people at Interval House, and we worked out for us to go and remove the dogs from my old house for me to grab whatever belongings I could grab at that time and then basically get out of there and go stay at Interval House. And then later on, we would arrange for the police to help me and my family go and retrieve the rest of my stuff. And that was our plan. So that is what we did. And that day, a couple hours later, me in a cab, along with 4 police cars filled with officers, like 2 in each car, went down to my apartment. I went and I got the dogs, put them in the cab, grabbed a bag full of stuff. I had a bag with me. They gave me like a bag. Threw a bunch of clothes and little toiletries and things like that in the bag. The cab took me and the dogs to the Humane Society. And the Humane Society had it worked out with Interval House that they would look after the animals for free for anyone that stayed there that had to also save their animals. I had told the police officers that he was being abusive to the animals when I was telling them about everything that he had been putting me through. I also mentioned the animals. So they were also like, you got to get your animals out of there too then. So yes, we went, we got our animals, or as my haters would say, we stole my dogs. Okay, guys. We brought them to the Humane Society. The Humane Society was amazing. And I spent a few weeks in Interval House doing counseling, and then my family and I decided that I would move to a whole new city. And that's when I moved here to Ottawa. My ex found out that I moved here. He followed me up here on a bus, begged me to see him in person and let him say goodbye to the dogs. I allowed him to. He ended up on my couch for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks about, going through withdrawal because he didn't have his methadone. I had no connection to anything in Ottawa. That's partially why I moved here. No more connection to anything. No more connection to drugs. Can't do them if I can't get them, right? Right. And that's a great thing to do, by the way. If you are getting sober, the best thing you can do for yourself is move somewhere where you don't have a connection to any of those things. And then it will be a lot better for you. I also don't have any of the triggers around me since I never used in this city. My hometown, when I'm walking down the street, it's like, oh, there's that place I used to use at, and there's that place I used to get at, and there's the clinic I used to go to. You know, it's just trigger, trigger, trigger. I don't have that here. I highly recommend doing that for yourself when you are recovering. It was also good for me too in terms of like my abuse. I also don't have triggers of places I went to with my ex, because even when he came here, we didn't do anything together. We didn't go anywhere. So I just have none of that. He finally went home. My husband and I met. Okay. He thought he was going to move in. He calls me up and he's like, oh, I got my grandpa to pack up all of our stuff and I'm moving in with you. And I was like, no, you're not. Please don't do that. So he and my husband almost got into a fight, but I kind of feel like that's for another story time in future one day. Anyway, I broke up with him in 2013. I moved to Ottawa in March of 2013. And I'm doing great now. I'm doing great now. It was really strange when I did leave him to have friends of mine like come and be like, oh, I didn't like him. I didn't like how he treated you. I reconnected with a lot of my friends that I had disconnected with when him and I were together. Because of course he did try to isolate me from friends. He would just start fights with them, rip them off, do awful things to them. Another thing that was amazing was when my friends told me about how it was to see life come back into me. Because when I was with him for the last several years, I feel like I really had to shut down as a person, kind of to protect myself, like a defense mechanism, no emotions. And I was almost like a robot. It's hard to explain being in such a controlling and toxic relationship for 7 years and what that does to you, and when you're constantly being berated and humiliated and yelled at all day long in front of people and for years, what that can do to you. But I really did shut down as a person. And as you can see, I have quite a lot of personality. So for that to all just was a lot for my friends. They were like, where did Beth go? This is strange. It was really neat when I left to have them talk about what it was like to see the life come back into me, if you will. For several years after my husband and I got married, he tried to contact me, my ex, on social media. He had a new girlfriend and he constantly tried to get into her account to message me and stuff. It was really awful. But in September of 2019, I got word from the same friend again that he had been found in a motel room and that he had OD'd using intravenous drugs. And we had been broken up for years. Broke up in 2013. He passed away in 2019. The only thing that was strange about it was I often wonder, like, if I didn't leave, I probably would have been dead in that motel room with him. And it's kind of a scary thought, but I do get really happy at the fact that my life is so much better now. You know, I have my beautiful daughter. I have my amazing husband. I have a place that I never have to worry about rent or bills. I am in just a way better spot mentally and with my mental health. Did eventually end up getting re-diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder after I got sober, because when you're using drugs, you can't get a proper diagnosis and treatment anyway. So once I was sober, and I actually got diagnosed when I was pregnant. Again, that sounds like a story time for another time. Maybe I'll tell you guys the whole story about how I was misdiagnosed and then diagnosed properly and blah, 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 blah in future. For now, this is my story of being in an abusive relationship for 7 years. I have done a lot of counseling over this, a lot. Once you're over something, it's easy to talk about it like it's just a story. It's just a memory that happened to me now. Not the greatest memory, but it's there. And it made me stronger as a person. And ever since then, I told myself that I would never back down from men treating me like crap. I don't think I have. So I guess please give this video a like. Subscribe if you are new here. I promise this isn't my usual content. I just thought, you know, since there's some information circling the interwebs about this, I would sit down and do a story time for you all. Tell you the actual story of what happened. On my Facebook, if you go way back, there's a live stream where I go into a lot more detail about things. So if you are interested in more, you can add me on Facebook and then you can go and watch that. I think it's like 2 hours long though. I didn't want to make this too triggering for you or for me, and just kind of wanted to tell the story the easiest that I could. I hope that I did a decent job. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I have no problem answering any questions about who I am or what I'm about. All you got to do is ask. And no matter where you are or what you're doing, I hope that you have a fabulous, fabulous day. My makeup look today is do not be triggered by your own video. That's what we'll call it. And I will see you all very, very soon on Monday, actually, with a new anti-MLM video, one I'm really excited about. So, bye! See you then! Subscribe! I can't do that outro ever again. People will hate me.